break. Steady kind, but we still came along. 5 men stood in that high school lot in all that dark, giving all we got. No word, but we all knew the score. This ain't just a workout, it's something more. Rain or shine, we're out there every time. Fill our hearts before this daily grind. F3 Nation building something real. The life we're living and the way we feel. In that rainy circle we find our pride. We're just husbands and dads, and we're ride or die.
All right, welcome back to the Circuit Trust podcast. Today is Tuesday, November the 4th, 2025, election day. A lot of kids out of school today. A lot of guys slept in today, I imagine, with the school. I didn't. I got up and went out to work out this morning. News from around the nation. I know I put out a request for from Camo to looking for some guys to join the LDP team. Y'all did it, and he's rolling through applications. I think he got about 15 applications. Thank you guys for submitting those. I know Carmen Sandiego has submitted a request out to the wild internet space for some new board members for the F3 Nation, aka my boss. That is a board I'm not on. Amazing board. I know they're going to Houston, I think, this weekend to meet and go through the semi-annual. Was it when you meet two times a year? Is it semi-annual, biennial? Either way, twice a year. Met in Omaha back in June rather, and then over in Houston this weekend. But check out the board of directors information on the Nation Slack and. But that's it. I think that's all I've got. The Gobbler Challenge is coming up. I know Gobbler's supposed to come in here on Friday. I'm trying to make that work. But check that Thanksgiving tradition out for F3. I'm here. The UK boys will not be participating in the Gobbler Challenge for some reason or another. I'll let them talk about that. It's something inappropriate over there. They don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so they use the term gobbler a little bit differently. But I'm learning. There's a lot of words out there in the summer. And then for me, I put out a request a couple weeks ago for some now transformational stories. F3 continues to have some amazing impact across the world. And guys are sharing those stories. Today, I got reached out to by somebody, not this guy, but somebody else reached out and said, man, you got to talk to this guy. I'll tell you just like if the Three's Company, get in here and do a better job of introducing yourself than I certainly do. But welcome, Three's Company. Good to have you on here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, Three's Company here, straight from the F3 Somerville region. So shout out to F3 Somerville. I guess a little bit about myself. U.S. military veteran, Marine Corps, hoorah for any Marines out there. F3 is, I joined F3 in 2019, and it's been an outlet for me, just like a lot of guys. But so I have a wife, I have a teenage son. Currently, I do government contracting as a tech writer for DoD contracts, bidding on those things. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
I heard a joke recently. Are you in the military or were you in the Air Force? I thought that was funny. I've never heard that before. Somerville, 2019. Now, I'll be honest with you. A lot of guys, when they did this was now thing, and when they interview them, they only say they've been doing it for 6 months, maybe at the most, and they've had that huge thing. You've been doing this for 4 years, and I will hear quite frequently, maybe about year 2, year 3, someone will say, "Yeah, I've kind of lost the magic of F3." So I'm interested to dive into that with you as well. But Somerville, South Carolina, Flower Town, my neck of the woods. I went to college Charleston for my undergraduate.
Oh, my son's there.
What a
my
great
son's
school.
a freshman there right now.
Yeah, I believe it. Is it still called the College of No Knowledge by all the Citadel cadets over there?
I never heard that one, but that's new to me.
Yeah, they just get mad because we got all the girls over on our side of town, and they're always just mad at us.
That was an option for him, but he didn't like the military academy type of things.
Me neither. I've been a hippie my whole life, so I went over to the college in downtown Charleston. But Yep. Love me some Charleston and some Folly Beach. That's my jam. Get me over there. James Island, Folly Beach. Love that area. Minus the sand gnats, Nate. Where did you do your basic training in the Marines?
Paris Island.
The sand gnats. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Sand fleas. They're the worst. They're terrible.
I had a boat. We launched out of Bluffton all the time. Was it Bluffton? No. Where did we launch out of? What's the little island just before Paris Island? Port Royal.
Port Royal. Yes. Or is it Port Royal? No, Royal.
You'll know better than that, dude. But cool. All right. Well, how'd you find F3?
My wife, actually, no. First, my wife was the one that kind of told me I should check. Just check it out. Just go with her. But how it started was the Christmas parade. So we were at the Somerville Christmas parade in 2018, December 2018, and I saw these guys. You know, I want to say formation, kind of a formation, yeah. And they had these cinder blocks, and they were doing all these crazy workouts in the parade, with these cinder blocks, and it reminded me of the military, and I really, I like that, and I felt like I needed that kind of camaraderie again. I wanted to be around a bunch of guys doing crazy stuff, those kinds of workouts against. I thought there was a cost to it or something. At first you see that, excuse me, and you think it costs something or whatever. So I didn't really look into it until my wife started doing FIA. And if you know FIA, females in action. She started doing that. She was doing that for a couple months in 2019. And then she said she saw the F3 guys at Doty Park in Somerville. And she's like, you should come check it out. She was telling me for a few weeks. And then I finally went on a Saturday morning. And I hadn't worked out like that in a it's been, it was years. We work out by ourselves. We do it once in a while here and there, once or twice, maybe a week or a month. And then I go there and I didn't know that it was an hour long workout. I'm used to doing these little 15, 20-minute workouts or whatever. And I go, I said, can I join you guys? They're like, yeah, they were very welcoming. And, after 30 minutes, I'm like, when is this over? I was exhausted. It really beat me up. But at the end of it, I was like, man, this is awesome. I love that they ended it with the pledge of allegiance. I love that they ended it with a prayer, with a circle of trust, and just the camaraderie and the fellowship of it all. And I went back and went back. Kept going ever since.
I love it. That sunrise hike on Sullivan's Island, I've been able to participate in that on the beach. Is one of the premiers. Is a box trip. It's like Red Rocks in Denver. You got to get out there on that Sullivan's Island beach sunrise. And Charleston is one of the unique places that the pledge is at the end. I don't know
Mhm.
if I've seen that at the end of every workout across the nation. That's certainly a signature of Charleston. Do you know how that started? Who did it?
I don't remember. I know I've read about it.
Doesn't really matter. All right, so your wife got you out there. Tell me about this name, Three's Company. What's that about?
Man, I think just the guys weren't very creative on that day.
That happens.
I
I
gave
get the
them
best.
all kind.
I
I
get the
threw
best
out
names on
all
the ride
kinds of
home.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, I threw a lot of stuff out there. I mean, military vet, United States Marine Corps. I was an avionics technician. I worked on KC-130s, all this cool stuff. And they go, well, how many in your family? I'm like, it's just three of us, my wife, me, and my son. And they're like, oh, Three's Company. So that's what it was. Shout out to Wreck-It Ralph, who was the Q on that day.
And I love names that are attached to family. My name's Huckleberry because my son's name is Finn, and so I just have a special love for family names. That's what I think. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I think that's cool.
My son ended up going eventually, and his name became Muggsy. So shout out to my son Muggsy on that,
Great name.
because he liked basketball at that time, and he was a little shorter. He's a lot bigger than me now. But when he started going, I think he was about 11 years old. We took him on a Saturday, when it was welcoming he might have came out like during a convergence or something at first. So he was, they gave him the name Muggsy, like Muggsy Bogues.
So tell me about this big noise going outside my window. I check that out. Tell me about this. So I had somebody reach out to me and tell me about this transformational story. What are we talking about here? I'm gonna learn it as the guys learn it.
Yeah. Oh man, it's wow. I went through a lot. Where do I start? So a few of us guys decided to do this whole the sheepdog. I'm guessing you're familiar with that. I'm guessing that's a whole F thing. Sheepdog, no?
No
Well,
clue.
sheepdog, I don't want to get too much into that, but it's basically a seesaw, right? It's no one in their right mind wants to do a seesaw or a sheepdog event. So it's a 6 hour, 12 hour, and then a 24 hour. It's basically endurance events, right? We're rucking basically the whole time, and the cadres are just punishing you the whole time, and you got to get through this whole thing as a team. But anyway,
Where do you bring cadre from? It's
sorry?
one of those. Where do you bring cadre from? Who's cadre?
It's the ones who are leading the endurance events. That was at that time. That was Goose and Hotspot. Shout out to them, Goose Hotspot. Yeah.
So
So
this is just a local event put on by local guys.
yes, yes.
Those are my favorite.
But
Those are my favorite.
yeah, yeah. But apparently it's not you know, it's not only F3 Somerville that's in it. A bunch of other, I guess, a bunch of other regions have done it too, I believe.
Awesome.
But we were doing this whole sheepdog thing, and before that, my leg, my knee, it was kind of I wasn't sure what was wrong with it, but it was kind of messed up for a little while. I always had to wear like a knee brace over it. And even during this event, I had to wear a knee brace over it. My knee was always kind of slightly bothering me, but if I put this knee brace over it, or sleeve, I should say, like a sleeve over it, I was okay. So I was always wearing this knee sleeve, even during the workouts for our BC. And, we did this whole thing, the 6 hour, the 12 hour, the 24 hour, which were brutal, by the way, especially the 24 hour for me, at least, right? Especially having flat feet and wearing this knee brace, and I wanted to give up so bad, especially during the 24 hour, but I just could not find the words to say I can't, or I'm done, or I give up, or I'm going home. I couldn't say the words. As Marines, we're not, you never give up, right? Even though I really wanted to, but they pushed me, and we all, it was just three of us that did it, along with the cadres. But we finally got through it. Shout out to Fish and Tinder, who were with me during during the 6, 12, and 24 hour events. But after all of that, my knee and my leg were getting a little more swollen. So this thing was growing. I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was a muscle sprain, right? Because I was training before the event too and everything, doing a lot of squats and deadlifts and things like that. Shout out Placebo, who was training me during that time. But I was ignoring it for a couple months, right? And our wives, man, they listen to your wives. My wife, she ended up scheduling the appointment for me, because this thing was just growing, and it became so uncomfortable that it was a little difficult for me to walk. And us guys, we don't want to go to the doctor. We don't want to go through all this nonsense, and we don't want to deal with that stuff. So I didn't want to go, because I'm like, it'll go away. It's just a muscle sprain, right? And my wife's like, I scheduled the appointment for you because it's been months already, and this thing just keeps growing. So I went to the doctor. And doctor said, this is not a muscle sprain. It's too big for that. It's too big to be a muscle sprain. And also it's not fluid, because it would have been leaking down to your ankle. So it's not doing that either. This thing was local, right at my quad area. So I thought maybe my quad was, getting bigger because I was working out so much. But I'm like, why is only one of them getting bigger? Right? I'm like, am I doing one side more than the other? Am I leaning on what's that was a but so the doctor had me do he had me go get checked, doing I think it was a MRI, get checked at MUSC, and they found out that it was a cancerous tumor in my leg called sarcoma. So it was a soft tissue sarcoma. I'm like, what the heck is sarcoma? I never heard of it. So they explained it. It's a cancerous tumor. It's localized. It's talking about surgery. They're talking all that. I'm like, this just completely caught me by surprise. Very healthy, worked out about 4 or 5 times a week. I eat healthy, for the most part. And I'm like, how did this happen? This completely caught me by surprise. So they had to do surgery. First, I had to do radiation therapy. So I underwent 5 weeks of radiation every single day, except the weekends, but every day, like clockwork. I had to get up super early in the morning, go drive all the way to MUSC hospital. And MUSC, by the way, is Medical University of South Carolina. So 5 weeks of radiation therapy. Then after that, I was scheduled for a surgery. They removed the tumor, and unfortunately, along with the tumor, they had to remove my femur bone and my knee. They left my kneecap. So I have this rod, this metal rod from my hip all the way down, connected all the way down to my shin. So it's this metal prosthetic inside of my leg. So that just really, that took me out. I mean, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, it just broke me, because being such an active person, running, I mean, to this day, I'm like, I never thought I would say these words, that I miss doing burpees. I never thought I'd say I miss doing burpees, but
That.
never, or say that I miss running, and sometimes, I just want to take off running and I can't do that anymore, unfortunately. But, so that really took me out, a year of just kind of this mental drain and toll that it took on me during that
Can I ask you,
time,
can I ask you a
Go ahead.
couple questions?
Yeah, yeah.
So my wife has had hip surgery at the young age, and I've seen the YouTube video of it's pretty. I don't know who learned this stuff, but they literally saw off half a femur and then put a metal plate in there, and and the recovery is pretty phenomenal. What does removing your femur entail?
I Well, I mean, I never wanted to see what that looked
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I'm
I
just
was asleep obviously the whole time. I was asleep the whole time, but I could have watched the video. My wife saw it. She said she asked me, I'm like, I do not want to see anything of someone cutting the bone off or
yeah,
that's not me. I
yeah. I
can't
don't
look at that.
recommend it.
No, no, no. And I have a really big scar from all the way up the top of my leg, all the way down to my lower knee. So it's this long scar. And then just seeing that on your body at first, and you see all these staples and it's like, oh, but what did they do to my leg? It's a painful sight to see on your own body, and it can really take a mental toll on you when somebody first goes through that.
So just help me understand. So there's a metal rod from your hip to your ankle and
No, to my into my shin bone.
to your shin bone. Okay, so
Yeah.
it bends at
Mhm.
the knee.
Yep,
And
yep.
so are you always on crutches? Are you on a walker? Are you on?
I mean, I did it all. I was on a wheelchair. I was on a walker. You kind of go up these. You kind of get, promoted a little bit as you as I undergo physical therapy after the walker. I did a cane. I was doing a cane for a while, and then until eventually you get used to walking on your own. But
How long ago was this?
this was in 2023. So the
It
the
just
the
happened.
craze. What's that?
It's like just happened. That's just brand new.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that was the first surgery. That was the first surgery. So
God,
I went through a lot more after that. I mean, the crazy thing is, I was recovering really well. I was doing really well, speedy recovery for me because I was so healthy, right? 6 months down the road, after I'm already like now on a bike, like I can now ride a bike, and I figured, I'll ride a bike. If I can't run, I'll at least ride a bike, So um I'm, I'm getting over this whole thing. My mind is getting a little better. And by the way, my F3 guys, man, my F3 brothers throughout that whole time. And even now, I mean, it's truly a brotherhood. Those guys showed up for me. They helped me. They supported me big time. They came to my house sometimes, they came to my house for my birthday, during that time when I was on a wheelchair. They helped me do things, around the house in my lawn when I couldn't do it. Just, I mean, they were just so helpful, and very supportive, so I love them for that. Just being there. But 6 months down the road, I caught an infection. I caught an infection. Thank God for my wife again. My wife saved my life multiple times. I started feeling this pain in my leg all of a sudden. And after a couple days, the pain every day, the pain would get worse to the point where I couldn't even walk. And this is after 6 months of recovery, and I'm doing well and just fine. Couldn't walk. Pain was just getting excruciating. The pain meds were not helping. Nothing was helping. And I'm over here moaning and groaning. And my wife goes, "We're going to the hospital." I'm like, "No, I didn't want to do, again, I'm like, I don't want to go to the hospital. They're not going to know what to do, blah, 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 right? Emergency room, all this stuff." And I'm like, I don't want to go. And my wife, she's tough. Her name is Giggles, by the way. Her FIA name is Giggles. So shout out to my wife, Giggles. Somerville, FIA, shout out to them. But she, man, she's tough. She says this, right? She said, "You're either going to the emergency room or I'm going to call the ambulance. So either way, you're going."
good for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. Because I did not know that this was life or death. Because when we got there and they found out it was an infection in my leg, what I actually had was, I think it's called sepsis, if I'm saying it right.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. I've heard of it.
So what it is this infection. The doctors, when they found out it was an infection, they said, "Thank God you got here when you did." they were saying it to me, good on you and all this stuff. And I'm like, it was my wife. It really wasn't me. My wife forced me to come here. And, they're like, good on you. It's good that you got here when you did, because if you would have gotten here maybe hours later, this could have been life or death. This sepsis, the infection would have spread. And I'm not sure, I don't remember how that works, but eventually that can kill you. That infection can literally kill you. So I'm like, oh my God, like I could have died if my wife didn't insist on going to the emergency room. So, that infection, they had to open me back up all over again, clean out the infection, replace some of the hardware and some of the parts there, close it back up, and I was back to square one again, with all the recovery and everything again. Almost a year after that, right? So now we're 2024, just last year, almost a year, they find that I still had chronic infection. And it's because throughout this whole 2024 year, I was just feeling drained. I was feeling, I had no energy, and, I had to start taking iron pills. I didn't know what was going on. My recovery was very slow. My leg wouldn't bend. All this physical therapy wasn't help. Nothing was helping. And then eventually they found out I still had a chronic infection. So they had to start over again, do a two-phased approach, the surgery. So this happened earlier this year. I had a surgery in January, where they had to put this long straight rod in me first with some antibiotic, some sort of antibiotic spacers in there in my leg, and then open me back up in March and put the new prosthetic inside. So my last surgery was in March of this year, but thank God I'm recovering well now. That the only thing about this infection is always a possibility. This is why I kind of have to be a germaphobe now. I got to be very careful where I go, not being around too many, large crowds. I have to do it. Be very careful, uh, because I can always catch an infection. I always pray that I don't, but that's on the table. And the other thing that's a possibility, that if I continue getting an infection, the other possibility is amputation, which nobody ever wants, right? And that's something that I had to think about before this last surgery. There was that option. If we can do amputation, or we can try again with the prosthetic leg. Well, I mean, in the metal rod inside my leg. And I had a really hard time, because I'm like, I don't want to continue getting surgeries over and over. That's very painful, right? So it's just terrible that nobody wants to continue getting big surgeries like that all the time. So I was really thinking about amputation. I'm like, man, should I just do the amputation? So the surgeon, he ended up telling me, look, just why don't we do this? Let's just give it one more shot. I think, we have a 70% chance of getting your leg back, at least close back to normal again. You won't be able to run, of course, or anything like that. You won't be able to do any heavy things like that anymore, but we can get your leg. I think we have a 70% chance to get your leg, kind of close to normal at least. So why don't we, if I were you, he said, if I were in your shoes, I'd at least give it another shot. You don't want to go straight to amputation and then wonder, could we have prevented this, and could it have been a better outcome just with the prosthetic leg? So he's like, let's give it one more shot. If it doesn't work, if you continue to get infections after that, then, amputation is always on the table if you ever want to go that route. But yeah, that was a pretty heavy mental toll on me too. I mean, I have to say, thank God I'm doing a lot better now mentally.
And then, so the last surgery was in March.
Yes.
The amputation discussion was before this.
Yeah, it was amputation discussion was the beginning of this year, January, where we could either do the two-phased approach that I said, or amputation. And man, I was just broken over that.
And so since March, how you doing?
I'm doing a lot better. I've recovered very well. I'm actually walking without a cane, with no assistance now. I'm still working on the knee flexion. I'm at about 78, 80 degrees now of knee flexion. So I can sit down normally now, and, I can walk around, and my F3 brothers, they've been very, very supportive, and just really happy to see me, walking again without that assistance.
How has this tested your faith? Jump into a big
big time, really big, man. So, I mean, with my faith, I am, and I know people have different walks of faith. People believe in different things and all that. But I'm a believer in Christ, and that really shook me. And it wasn't a thing where I was tested in believing in God or not or anything like that. It was more of man, to me, this was more of a discipline thing. It was more of, as a believer in Christ, as a follower of Christ, and believing in the scriptures, right, in the Bible and everything. And I know that there's a scripture that says, as a father disciplines his children, so God disciplines those he loves, right? And I knew it was that. I knew it was that. I had about 3 or 4 signs in one week that it was that. Sometimes God's trying to tell you something, and I knew it was that. And it wasn't out of punishment. Some people think, get the wrong impression about this whole punishment from God, but sometimes it's correction and it's out of love. And I knew it was that. I was really straying away. I was really not fulfilling the call he had on my life, and he had to get my attention somehow. So he literally broke my leg to get my attention. But what that did was really draw me closer. And, that really drew me closer to him. I feel a lot closer to God than I ever have been, and closer to, community, closer to, fulfilling the call that he really had on me, and not living this double life, that I was living. It was kind of, one foot in, one foot out. I was kind of, I was trying to be a follower, and at the same time not, and that's not a good thing. You can't be living a double life. But that's kind of how I was, and he had to get my attention. And he did. He did. But I have to say that through all of that, um you know the going back to the brotherhood, man, thank God for F3, man. I mean, like I said, just the closeness with them, the encouragement I got from my F3 brothers, that was extremely helpful. That was extremely helpful, and it was a very necessary thing. The fellowship that I had with them, and even when I couldn't do the workouts, I would at least show up for cafeteria, right? So, I just want to encourage anybody that is going through anything similar, any hard thing, and you feel like you can't do a workout, man, show up to something. You can't always think that people are just going to come to you all the time, even though they did that. But I couldn't rely on, people are busy, people have lives. They're not going to go to your house and visit you every day. So I know I had to do my part, and I knew that I needed to be around other men, especially, men of F3, who just being around them, was always encouraging. It always lifted up my spirits. So.
Yeah, and then I just want to repeat this on that. You said it, and I just want to let you know I heard it. It's clearly you have some pretty phenomenal support networks around you. One being the F3 guys,
Definitely.
obviously your wife. It's got to be just the strongest woman.
Yeah.
How's it been going through this journey, just testing you at every level between work, between living, between being a dad, being a good friend, and I love that you said, well, I never stop showing up. Step one, never stop showing up.
Yeah.
But talk to us about that. What kind of, and I guess I'm headed this direction. We had some guys in Utah go through a pretty significant event, and we had just this past weekend in Plainsville, some guys go through a significant event, and it's just a lot. It's a lot to lean on each other and share burdens, and unless you're and in those rucking events, it's letting other people carry your weight.
Right.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
Yes.
What advice would you give to other guys? You've gone through one of the most traumatic things I think I've heard. So from that perspective, what advice would you give guys when they're carrying too much of a burden, and how to share that with the F3 guys?
Yeah, definitely. I have a few things. I had a brother reach out to me. A shout out to Bluegrass. He was going through a similar situation. He actually called me and kind of asked me the same thing, because he's like, I don't know how you did it. How are you doing this? Because he's kind of going. So I want to share kind of the same advice that I learned along the way throughout these past few years. Well, first, I want to say this one thing first, and then I want to share these three very important things. But the first one thing is, if you are going through something like that, and it's one of those things like I was going through, where now you actually need help. Don't refuse that help. An F3, one of my F3 brothers, he told me something that really hit me. Repo, shout out to Repo, because like all of us guys, or a lot of us guys, we don't like receiving help. We want to do things on our own. I do everything on my own. Well, I shouldn't say everything, but I'm used to just, cook my own breakfast. I make my own coffee. I do my own stuff. I fix my own things when I don't like reaching out to anybody for help. And a lot of us guys are
Ask
like
for help. Where's the line?
right.
Where you'd be like,
Right. It's hard for us to do that. But my good friend Repo, he said, he told me something that really hit me. He said, don't refuse somebody else's help because you might be taking away their blessing when you do that.
mhm.
So when I heard that, it sounds like, I'm kind of being selfish in a way, and I'm not allowing this person to be blessed by helping me. Right. So when I heard that, that really changed my perspective. And I said, wow, I never really thought of it that way. So now when somebody wants to help me, I'm all for it. I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, you want to
Good.
help
Good
me?
for you.
Come on, let's do it. Like, do what you need to do. So now it's like, man, when these guys wanted to come and help me, I stopped refusing it, because I know that by them helping me, I'm also allowing them to be blessed by that.
I see it. I see it a lot, and this is simple. This is just where I think there's a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that may not be there, but it's where they start. And one of the
Yeah.
starter points is at F3. You got a dang birthday, and I know you eat lunch every day. Let the boys have a birthday lunch with you. Like,
Yeah.
stop hiding your birthday. Dang it.
Yeah.
Guys all the time that don't tell them it's your birthday until it's a cue or something. But man, I want to go do lunch with you and celebrate you. And heck, even if you don't show up, I get to eat and I have a good meal and we talk about you. Sometimes
Yeah.
it turns into a roast. That's okay. That's okay too. It's out of love. Out of love. But thank you for saying that and asking for help.
Yeah. But
Talk to me about your relationship with your kid as you going. Now, how old's your boy?
my boy, he's 17. He's 17
Lord,
years old. But if
love.
you don't mind, because I didn't say the three things that
I'm
that
gonna edit
that
that part.
advice.
I
Yeah, yeah.
told you
You
I'll
know,
go left
advice.
field.
Yeah, no worries, man. So yeah, so that was the first thing I wanted to mention. But the three things that I would say for any man to do when you are going through it, man, when you're going through a really dark time, the first thing is for me, right, was drawing closer to God. I mean, sometimes we go through stuff that the only one who can help you mentally and spiritually is God himself. Like there's nothing no one can do. Like if you want to help me, right? And you can say all the things you can say, but when I'm in my own head, I'm in my own head, right? And I go to a dark place, I'm there, and there's no one that can get me out of that. And the only one really is, if you have faith, it's just drawing closer to God, even if it's in tears, whatever, man. Just do it, man. Just go to the higher power, right? Go to God Himself. That's the source. So draw closer, right? The second thing is be around other men, fellowship. Just do it. You got to do it. Like I said, I couldn't work out, but I went to Coffeeteria. And when I did that, they would always, ask me how I'm doing, some encouragement, whatever. But even on the days that I went and we just chatted, we just talked, just spending that hour there with them, that just lifted my spirits for the day, just being around other men. And that's super important. Don't isolate yourself. Don't isolate yourself. That's never a good thing. So I know myself, and if I isolate myself and I'm not spending time around other men, and just chatting and just, having fellowship, I'm gonna go into a black hole. And I know myself. So I didn't want that for myself, especially not going through this situation with my leg, right? And then the third thing is do something meaningful, right? Do something meaningful. For me, I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but for me, it was mentoring other young men. So at my church, I'm one of the volunteer youth leaders, and I mentor these young high school boys. And, we fellowship, we have discussions, we have small group discussions. Man, I wasn't missing it. I was not missing any of that. What I mean is, just because my leg was messed up, I didn't stay home. I went, you can ask these kids. I was on crutches and I would go on my crutches and show up for these guys and be there at walking with them through their struggles, giving them advice, mentoring them spiritually. And that was very fulfilling because it was not only me helping them and giving them advice, but that was helping me throughout my journey, throughout this dark time that I was going through, doing this meaningful thing, this very purposeful thing that I was doing. By doing that, I was fulfilling, my calling that God had placed on me. So yeah, those three things: draw closer to God, fellowship with other brothers, and do something meaningful, whatever that looks like. And I think I think many of us guys know what that is in ourselves. And if not, man, search for it. Search for that meaningful thing that you should be doing. And that's the thing, that you don't have to wait till you're going through a dark time to do that. Do it now. Do it now. That'll strengthen you for that time. But especially during these dark times, don't stop doing that, because those three things really, really kept me going, really sustained me, and really gave me a whole lot of strength throughout this difficult time.
Yeah. I kind of wrote down, you said, draw a plan, draw closer to God, be around other dudes, and then do something meaningful. It sounded like second F and third F. The first F shifted over from taking a little bit, hey, physical fitness. How you doing with physical fitness? You look healthy. You look skinny. How you staying fit?
They're probably going to be a little upset at me, my F3 guys, but I haven't been out there in about a month, but I'll show up. I promise. I'm going to be there again. Don't worry.
Well, they're the ones that called me
But
and told me to talk to you. So they
yeah.
clearly are still loving you out there.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long. It hasn't been that long. A few weeks to a month, but it's only because on Saturdays I have been going to. I shouldn't say all that, but because there's still the rest of the week, right? But I would usually go on Saturdays, but now on Saturdays I've been going to a coffee shop with the young kids, with the high school kids, mentoring them, and that's been taking a little bit of time away from F3, but I mean, at least I'm doing something meaningful right during that time. But I still plan on going back out, but it hasn't been that long. But as far as fitness, I think the last time I went out was during our last convergence. We had a 10-year anniversary not too long ago. I think about a month ago. That was the last time I went out. And I was actually able, for the first time in a long time, I was able to do all the workouts. I was able to do everything. I had to modify a little bit, especially with the burpees. Had to modify a little there, but I was able to do all the workouts, other than, obviously I know some AOs run, or sometimes, they go off the AO and kind of come back. When that happens, I would have to kind of, I'll stay behind. One of the guys will stay with me, and one of the packs will stay with me. I might do something else, do some, Merkins or squats or hold a plank or whatever. But I'm able to at least do something. So I guess that's another piece of advice there. If you have some kind of handicap, but you can still do something, man, show up, do it. Just go. Don't let that completely stop you from showing up. You can always do something. And one of the F3, I used to feel like, man, I don't want to go because I don't want to make everybody else feel like they have to modify the workout for me. Or I don't want to go because I don't want everybody to feel bad for me or sorry for me, not. And I would say it, once in a while, don't modify the workout for me. You guys do what you got to do, but, I kind of had to force myself to go, I still went anyway. And, it was always a good thing.
Yeah, I think there's a strong culture in your local regions. If guys who are injured are still showing up, and guys who aren't injured pull out of that run and go ruck with them, or walk with them, or sit on the tailgate with them. Three's Company, I'm gonna say this. We say F3 is more than a workout, and man,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna put that definition on the website, and we're gonna put your picture underneath that. That's like the definition of this is more than a workout. That's all you talked about today. City Slicker is the
Definitely.
guy who reached out to me, and
Yeah. Shout out to City.
so maybe
He's the new Nantan, by the way. Yeah. New Nantan. He just took over for Microwave. Shout out to Microwave, another good guy there at F3. Did an excellent job as the Nantan. So now it's
well,
City's turn, and I'm sure he's going to do an excellent job too.
you asked Microwave a question for me, and that's what's leadership role is he doing after Nantan? Because a lot of Nantans look for that rocking chair after Nantan, and
Yeah.
I bet he doesn't have one. I bet he's taking a break.
No, he's not. He's definitely not taking a break.
Good for him.
Microwave's always been out there, man. Microwave's everybody knows it. He shows up all the time. His dude is queuing almost all the time. If somebody didn't take the cue, he was there. So I mean, his Nantan leadership role was well deserved. Microwave's a good guy, and he's always showing up.
I love the second half roles either at the region or at the region level or at the AO level. I love taking that second half role. And aren't you guys the guys that jump in a boat and throw water balloons at another AO on occasion? Is that y'all that did that down there?
I don't know if we did. I don't know about it. Not sure it was us.
I think you don't. And I think there's an AO over there by the boat. What's that? The Patriots Point over there in downtown Charleston. And I think another AO jumped in a boat and threw water balloons at him. I think that's them. That's on Facebook. But anyway, I thought that was pretty impressive. Impressive. All right, we're at that 45-minute mark, and I've told that podcast 45 minutes as long as people can listen. Anything. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. First of all, really appreciate your wife. Tell her I said thank you, and just love talking to a man, and man, he can't stop talking about how great his M is, and that's just cool. I would wish that upon every dude. Go out there and talk great about you. Anything you kind of came on here. I didn't know the story. Anything you thought I was going to ask you? Wish I'd asked you, but didn't ask you.
Not that I could think of. I mean, I think I should say, man, all of this that I had gone through was not even the only thing. Our family was going through a lot during this whole time. It was a really stressful couple years. I mean, it's a lot to share. This would take like a whole other session.
Like you're coming on next
which
week.
I'm not asking for, but it's a lot. But just long story short, I'll try to close this in really quickly. But my son had gotten arrested for a crime he did not commit. We had to prove his innocence. This was all during this time. My wife has Hashimoto's, and if you know anything about Hashimoto's, guys, look it up. This is really important. It's connected to thyroidism. Always check your neck, especially if you're M or yourself, you have any of those symptoms. She was going through that, and that can be very emotionally and physically draining. Family drama on both sides. I mean, we were going through a lot during these couple of years. Not only with my leg. Like, I guess one of the important, things I'll say is, and I still don't know how to define the joy part, but there's a scripture that says, consider it pure joy. It's like one of those scriptures, right, that says, and I still haven't figured out the joy part, but it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you're going through trials of many kinds, because how does it go? It produces perseverance, right? The testing of your faith produces perseverance. And okay. Man, there was a whole lot of that going on.
I love it. All right, I'm gonna hit some buttons. Hang tight. It's gonna shoot some video up to the cloud, and there'll be music playing. I want to give a shout out to some dude. I put some music in here. Some dude on SoundCloud's doing some fun F3. I'm sure it's AI, so whatever it is. But that's cool. Cool. So I attached that to these videos just for fun. It makes it easy for me. So I appreciate that content out there. Just wanted to give that shout out. All right, I'm hitting some buttons.